What it means to be a starseed and living on this planet Earth at this profound time of transition. So please make welcome Naomi Cook.
Hi. Right, I've got to just figure out this technology. Oh, cool. So just take maybe 5 seconds just to imagine what you think open contact or first contact, or as I would say, star family integration. What does that look like to you? Just take a few seconds. Our ability to consciously co-create timelines is affected by our ability to access, harness, explore, and unleash our imaginations, like composers plucking tunes out of the infinite, so we too can pioneer new realities by imagining what they might look like. I'm going to talk today about what I mean by star family integration, the potential role of starseeds. What is a starseed? Why would I be talking about this? How could it happen? Who may it involve? Other visions and pathways relevant to my own imaginings on this topic. I'll look at the role of the imagination and heart-based frequencies in this new ascended timeline, which is relevant to our ascension process and the shift, which is why we're here today. Just quickly about me, I'm an author, a registered nurse. My memoir, How She Healed Me, actually documents my own journey to awakening after my older daughter was diagnosed with a giant brain tumor. As a registered nurse, this took me on a huge journey, and I had the big kick up the butt awakening that Nicole was referring to. So that's my memoir, and these are my kids' books. I write children's health and wellness picture books. The alien one's not yet out, it will be soon. I also have just started a kids YouTube series, by the way. I started studying permaculture last year. It was the most grounding thing. And I felt compelled to start talking to kids about nature and eco-awareness. So. Project Starseed is a grassroots global and cosmic movement to help redefine and shift perspectives on what it means to be human. It's ultimately a form of grassroots disclosure. We have members from over 39 different countries and this crazy age range of 13 to 75. The feeling of being starseed is a global age-irrelevant feeling that people have on this planet. We're working together to actively unfold and co-create a fourth density timeline, an ascended timeline, and hopefully, maybe, commence the co-creation of star family integration. What's a starseed? I'm just going to ask questions here because I have a lot of questions. Are we all starseeds? We're all made of the same stuff of stars. We all come from a source of all that is. We all have a sovereign heritage. In that sense, from a quantum perspective, is there ever not quantum entanglement taking place if we all come from a source of all that is? So what's a starseed then? We've come here to experience some limitation or the perspective of limitation, and so definitions are useful to us. So could we say that a starseed is someone who identifies as having had a cosmic heritage? But what's a cosmic heritage? A past life as a Palladian? Well, maybe. But we're also beginning to understand now and perhaps encounter the idea that time, linear time as we experience it, isn't so. So if there's one big now moment in the infinite, were we ever in a past life a Palladian? So where does that leave the starseed and this connection? Maybe we're just developing multidimensional awareness and we're connecting to other selves that are experiencing themselves at other points in the continuum of infinity. I don't know. What about hybridity? There's an awesome book written by Barbara Lamb and Miguel, and a surname I can't pronounce, and it's called Meet the Hybrids. And in this book, starseeds see themselves as hybrid humans, and they remember or recall or have experienced some holographic transference of galactic DNA, so human DNA and ET DNA. That's really cool. I can resonate with that. But maybe all humans are hybrids, and in fact Steve alluded to this earlier today. We're becoming aware that there are points in our evolution as a species that there may have been galactic seeding into our own DNA. So we're all hybrids. So who has the cosmic connection? Maybe that's related to having an activated or realized aspect of your DNA. You're born a certain way, you don't feel a heart connection or cosmic connection. Boom, something happens and then you do. So is that a non-awakened starseed than an awakened starseed? I don't know. For me, the word starseed has a frequency that I just love. Secondly, I personally have a heart connection off-world that I can't explain and I don't understand. And it started when I was 16, recovering from a serious illness. And I became obsessed with the stars, and I would stand on my freezing cold porch of my Oxford home in the UK and look out and want to cry and not know why. There are many starseeds in the Project Starseed group that have had the same feelings their whole lives and haven't understood why they ache for the cosmos, why they feel like a piece of them is out there. This is a more grounded approach to looking at starseeds. This is pretty cool. So Graham Forscott, is it clear, the picture, by the way? Because from my perspective here, I can't really see it. Does it look clear? Yeah. He's an amazing physicist. This is me and him. He has pioneered a new type of galactic astrology where he's created a heliocentric astrology where the sun's at the center, and then we have the nodes of the decagon around. The clusters of asteroids and planets obviously alludes to the sort of frequency signatures we've chosen to incarnate here with, depending on the moment of birth. So this is my own birth chart, actually. And so you can see that he has seen on my chart that I have an Arcturian, potential Arcturian star family heritage, a link to the ultra-terrestrial system, the Sun, Rigel, and Orion, and also a Palladian connection, which actually isn't on this chart. So he would say, when coming in here, you've given yourself a blueprint or a roadmap that can illustrate where you've been, if we look at it from a linear perspective. But we could also say that I've incarnated here, and as I've snatched the frequency signatures of this collection of asteroids and planets, so I have snatched the frequency signatures of the Arcturian star system, the Pallades and Rigel. And there will be, you know, countless people the same on this planet, whether or not they're aware of it. Oh, there you go. Interestingly, I had this piece of artwork channeled by galactic artist Vashta, and I didn't tell her about my own Arcturian blueprint or frequency signature. She channeled an Arcturian being in the stages of creation by uttering a word. I think it's kind of cool that I'm here today with potential Arcturian heritage talking to you about co-creating star family integration. Okay, what is star family integration? Let's just start with an underlying premise that there are galactic beings. Let's just accept that if you want to. Some may be friendly and some may not be friendly. Some we may have genetic heritage with through our seeding, for example, or through some, you know, frequency signature on birth. Let's start too with the premise that they're waiting for the right moment for widespread integration or open contact to occur. Why do I use the word integration over open contact? Well, for me, the word open contact is a bit old paradigm. To me, it brings the feelings through of ships appearing in the sky, hello, we're here, the outside changing the in. Integration for me carries the feeling more of a grassroots movement of the inside changing first, to then changing the out. That's just why I like to use those words. So, Why are they waiting? Well, it's quite obvious that they are waiting because this hasn't actually happened yet. We don't have star family integration or open contact. Why? Well, perhaps because we've been becoming of age, reaching a point in our own conscious evolution where we can fathom and imagine this event and invite this event. Actually, okay. So why am I even here today talking about this? What's the point? Well, first of all, because I am here, so it has to be relevant somehow, because we have collectively co-created this meeting point in space and time to have this conversation. So if it wasn't in your mind before today, it is now. Sorry. We're at a point in our evolution as a species where we can imagine it. Because we can dream it, it must exist as one potential possible reality. It was interesting today to hear Steve in the second talk about the Pallades. Funny coincidence, isn't it? Sorry, I don't know how you guys did it without notes earlier. I really need my notes. Sorry. So open contact, integration over open contact. Co-evolution is another useful word here because integration for me carries the feeling of co-evolution, that when integration occurs, it's not going to be us and them. There's going to be a co-evolution, a merging of species, a new species, really ending an old chapter and entering into a new one. That's quite exciting, but it's a big deal. And how funny that co-evolve and integrate share the same alphanumerics. If A is 1 and Z is 26, they both equate to 99. Coincidence? Aha! Why else am I talking about this? Well, those of us in the Truther movement know that there is one potential timeline that may unfold that sees a staged alien invasion. We know we're being prepped for this through Hollywood. And we have an ability today and in the future to consciously try and divert away from the timeline of staged alien invasion. It's certainly not one that I want to be on. So by having positive thoughts and by positively and consciously co-creating optimum timelines with star family members, my hope is that we can avoid that. So who else is talking about this? Interestingly, when I actually first put my thoughts together, my imaginings on star family integration about 2 years ago, I hadn't come across the materials of these people. And so since I've written my original imaginings, I've come across funny coincidences out there and things that have validated my own thoughts, which is pretty cool. So Lisa Royal Holt, I'm going to be quoting her a lot today. Oh my goodness, she wrote her books on this topic when I was still in school. I mean, she's been doing this for ages, and I find myself really in resonance with what she's saying. She often channels a Palladian representative, interestingly. Bashar, love Bashar. Don't always agree with what he says 100%, but love what he's saying. Love it. And he's got some ideas on open contact, as he calls it, occurring over the next, well, I guess 12 years. He actually says that by this point in time, and we have to be careful, saying this particular date, but he says by the year 2032, he thinks that there will be more stories emerging of people having had ET contact. Stephen Greer, 2 amazing documentaries that he's written for the Disclosure and Truth and Movement, and funnily enough, this year he's actually creating another documentary on positive contact with extraterrestrials. He is very aware of the potential staged alien invasion timeline, and so this is why he's creating his new documentary, the year that I'm coming here to speak about this, which is another nice coincidence. And Michael Sala, amazing guy, and has been doing this for so long, and I respect his work so much, love it. My vision is totally different to his, completely, more or less completely, which is great, and that's totally fine. So I'm going to be using his to kind of offset my own today. So at the beginning when I said, just take 5 seconds to imagine what open contact or first contact looks like to you, what kind of things came up in your head? Did any of you see something like this? I had to edit the bottom of this meme because it said, if you can dream it, it can become a reality. And that is not the reality that I'm talking about here. So ET contact from the top down with these dudes who are screwing up our planet, forget it. No. This is more what I have in mind. So this is where the starseed heart connection comes in. The key aspect to my own vision on star family integration is that it is heart-centered. There is a sense of family connection of world, and this changes everything. So what is this vision that I'm going on about? My vision is cosmic, brothers, sisters, friends, and colleagues uniting with us here in fourth density, so still embodied. We are ascending, but I still see us on a timeline of needing physical bodies for a little bit longer, creating two-way relationships on and off-world. Earth becoming part of the galactic community with a sharing of stories, experiences, existential understandings, and more. And obviously, there will be at some point an interbreeding of humans and ET species. This is the coevolution. Integration may look different to everyone considering it or imagining it, and there may then be an infinite number of timelines that may unfold in relation to how it is imagined and how it is perceived when it unfolds. So we have grassroots integration. Pockets of individuals and small groups globally with face-to-face contact. They have experiences and they create stories. This creates history. These groups having face-to-face contact change, and this change feeds back into the morphogenetic field of all that is the collective, which changes the collective. This leads to shifts and has ramifications in the collective. Truth then emerges organically from the grassroots from here and isn't imposed upon from the outside in. It's not imposed upon a mindset that isn't ready. How about this? When coming here, we chose to be either fully or partially blindfolded. Imagine that you were a Palladian in a past life. If we want to be linear about it, let's be linear. And you were eager to reconnect with humanity as a species, waiting for hundreds of years to connect and integrate and mix up the gene pool. But you know that by landing in someone's back garden and suggesting, let's integrate, you'd be forcing a change upon a consciousness that isn't ready for it. This is an imposition of will and an imposition of ideas over a mind that hasn't asked for it and isn't ready for it. What would be a better way to integrate with a species on a different planet? One would be to contact individuals via meditation or dream states. And we know that Sasha, the Palladian rep, channeled by Alyssa Royal Holt, has done this. But the other idea, and surely the braver, would be to choose to incarnate in human form yourselves. To choose to forget your lineage and your history and trust that the heart connection, the heart link, will be so powerful that it will push through the amnesia, but only to a certain extent. So the push and drive to change things on Earth will be truly organic. Self-initiated change, a spontaneous systems change, the in literally changing the out. So in this sense, starseeds could be seen, or cosmically conscious humans could be seen, as a sort of frequency-loaded Trojan horse waiting for the right time to explode out pre-planned energetic signatures into the collective. So if we are the shift here, maybe this Trojan horse is us. Michael Sala. We do share one similarity in our visions of this, and that is that integration or open contact from the top down is not the way forward. So he describes citizen-led diplomacy or track 2 diplomacy, and he says that it may be that individuals or groups in alignment with the vital interests of Earth may have greater diplomatic standing for some ET visitors. And these self-described Earth citizens may have special significance. And these Earth citizens may enjoy greater status than the appointed officials representing sovereign nations. He says that we can anticipate special tension then between these individuals and ETs because they will be making agreements that will have consequences far beyond their own physical numbers. I'll come back to that. He does talk very realistically and reasonably about shadow governments, negative agendas, and manipulation of humans. So I'm going to come back to safety in my last 3 slides, or 4 slides. So let's come back to this idea of having Earth citizens being reps, who on Earth would consider themselves in a position to make decisions that affect a species that hasn't asked for representation, who would declare themselves Gaia spokesperson, particularly when a planet has a completely non-unified species. So in a Facebook group I was in a little while back, somebody said, who should we nominate as the galactic rep for planet Earth? I was like, stop it. Anyway, they carried on. They did, and they listed all sorts of names from like Donald Trump will be our ET rep to, Joe Bloggs down the road, and I was having a heart attack. I actually then wrote an article. I put it on the Project Starseed blog that goes into detail on this. It's called Why Earth Isn't Ready for a Global Rep and Why We Don't Need One. I'm going to start going into a little bit now about the idea of love, which is really relevant to my vision, the key frequency. Let's think about this. When there is a recognition of a shared sovereign heritage and the foundation of unconditional love as the basis for all we do, we can scrap the 3D concept of diplomacy and its energetic baggage of 3D past and move into an era, an ascended, shifted era, where mutual love and respect form the basis of relations. So the rule is that there are no rules except mutually loving interaction. This isn't to say that certain expected behaviors don't evolve. They will, but their evolution is organic, not imposed upon. It's very easy to project a third density mindset onto a future timeline for star family integration, going off the same rules that we've always gone off before. Representatives, official meetings and treaties and agreements and rules, which of course carry the inherent difficulties that are an integral part of that: ownership, boundaries, attachment, difference, and ego. What's a rule anyway? Well, a rule is usually a prescription of behavior leading to an enforced way of being for some perceived higher good, which is usually order. On Earth, diplomatic relations are needed at the moment, or at least in 3D past, still now already, to create the appearance of flow and ease of communication, to enable the appearance of peaceful coexistence and coevolution. What's the worst that could happen if we don't go about star family integration and open contact without having rules there to tell us what to do? What's the worst? Well, chaos, loss of self, disintegration. It's scary stuff if you think you need rules to go ahead. Is such a consciousness with this fear at the heart of it regarding star family integration and ET contact, is this consciousness ready for star family integration? Well, maybe they are, but maybe they're ready for that kind of timeline. I want to be on a timeline that's a bit different to that. I want to be on an ascended, shifted timeline where love is the foundation of going forward with extraterrestrials. So the invitation, what would it be? How can you say, woohoo, we're ready, let's integrate? Unconditional love, which sounds so woo-woo to an old paradigm, to the non-shifted, non-ascended mind. But to the shifted, ascending mind, it makes perfect sense, feels right, but there's also some science to back it up. Linclair Dennis, through the use of cymatics, has seen that, oh, where's my little pointy thing? I don't know. Let's just look at that end one there. She found that the heart, when mapped on cymatics, created sacred geometric shapes, which sacred geometry we know has the physics of golden ratio. Golden ratio, as we know, is the blueprint of the natural world, of nature. Creation itself uses golden ratio as its creator code. In fact, the numbers 141, when using alphanumerics, create the words 5 spiral, which is golden ratio, source code, and prime creator. So could we say then that golden ratio is love in the form of creation, from spiral galaxies in the sky down to the little snail shells and water swirling out your bathtub? Golden ratio is the macro and the micro of all that we see. The Heart Math Institute too has found that being in heart-based coherence is related to being in a positive mind state, having positive thoughts, the perfect state to be then in to co-create optimal timelines with golden ratio heartbeat, a creation code. It's quite profound. So therefore, using the concept of unconditional love as a magnet or beacon for the invite may well be seen as relevant to our higher dimensional cosmic families who most likely have long understood this universal language code or geometry. The conscious use of these heart-based frequencies may be seen as a sign of spiritual readiness for integration, for the kind of timeline that we may think is optimal. Actually, funnily enough, after creating the article for Project Starseed blog on the invite, and what could the invite be, when it was very clear that it needed to be unconditional love, I came across Bashar in one of his talks, and he was talking about open contact, and he created this contact crystal for his followers as a permission slip, as he calls it, to connect to his species. And this contact crystal was green, heart chakra energy, and I was like, oh, that's so cool, it's green. And then he actually then said, after I already thought it, and it's green because our communication with you will be heart-based. Huh? I know, so cool. I know. I know, I almost got clapped there. So what about making agreements and going forward with the contact? I don't think, in the kind of timeline I want to co-create and manifest, I don't want to imagine tension before we even start. And I don't really want to imagine selected human beings making decisions on behalf of people who haven't asked for it. I think what we can do is trust and know that these things will unfold organically and be right, provided we work within the framework and frequency of unconditional love. Haroni, channeled by Lissa Royal Holt and Visitors from Within, has said, we perceive flow as agreements, reality itself as an agreement. Your definition of agreement is either oral or written, and even then, those agreements often have loopholes in them to protect yourself, which is kind of what I was saying about these things being indicative of some underlying fear of chaos if the agreements aren't in place. So have a little think about practicalities. The star family members integrating here on the planet, would they need to be temporary face-to-face visits for acclimatization, both for humans and for the ETs themselves? I would have thought so. Is this already happening, in spots over the globe? I don't know. I'd like to know. I wrote one piece on housing and how that may play out if we're having homestays. Obviously, extraterrestrials that have, let's say, look less humanoid in appearance, we may see them integrating first in acreage settings and countryside areas where there's more flexibility with mixing with, closer communities, and having that shift in the collective in that pocket first. Whereas in the city, obviously you'd want to start, you would imagine, with more humanoid beings interacting so that they don't cause a rupture in the consciousness of those if they go out and about and, woo, alien, not quite ready for it. This is interesting too because we're seeing all these new eco-communities emerging, and there's a Sasha Stone's New Earth project, and they represent the ascended kind of timeline where sacred geometrons are consciously reaching a point where maybe ready to open up that heart and say, I'm ready. There's the Sasha Stone one, the Venus project is one that's been going on for a while, and the Seasteading project as well. These were the ones that I was thinking about, kind of could be good meeting points. So how to co-create something as crazy as this? This comes from blueprint down to here. Right now it's like, what? This is crazy. How can we even begin to co-create this kind of timeline? Well, pockets of individuals prepare emotionally and spiritually and physically for star family and cosmic colleagues. Self-healing, self-actualizing, living in bliss as much as possible. Of course, it's not blissful all the time. And being in ethical alignment with our lifestyle choices and habits, exiting victim mentality. Sasha, channeled by Lisa Royal Holt, has said, it's a matter of simply living in a way that you create consciously what you wish to create. It requires that you no longer blame others either. Blaming, engaging in the blame game, will be the most simple, powerful deterrent towards you embracing ET contact. And when you have a rich inner life, you will attract us more strongly than you ever could by looking at the sky. So this is really kind of referring to becoming fully incarnated, really being here, integrated, incarnated. And I managed to do that last year by starting gardening, and I recommend it. It's very grounding. I think I've covered those things. In the Project Starseed closed Facebook group, we started a dream project about a year ago where we've encouraged members to set their intentions before they go to sleep, connect with Star Family, and then share any relevant dreams in this document that's kind of growing now. So that's quite cool. Imagining what it would look like. And this is also quite nice. Lisa Royal Holt again channeled this Palladian rep, Sasha, who I just adore, and she said that a key signal for her and her team that a species is ready for contact is a sign that they've become excited about being themselves. And I don't mean about being yourself, but about being part of your species. That's a huge challenge, but pretty profound. Yeah. To get excited about our species really means integrating the darkness. And just to refer back to Michael Sala, whose focus was on humans being chosen by ETs. Well, here, Bashar, channeled here by Lisa Royal Holt, though, has said the association, I don't know what association, some galactic one, considers every one of you ambassadors. There is no hierarchy or choosing. You choose yourselves for this role of being an Earth galactic ambassador or rep or, initiator of the Star Family integration. Yeah, I really like that. That's it. I know. You get chosen, choose. I know. Glad you agree. Yeah. Okay, what's the name? Okay, this is, so imagine. This is all about imagination. Imagination is the pipeline to the higher mind. This next one goes by really quickly. I don't know why. Is it this one or the next one? Imagination is not the myth it is believed to be. It is a realm of reality. Now that's pretty cool. When this shift begins taking place in the mass consciousness, we will not land and create a major event with fanfare. Instead, you are going to notice more and more contact with small groups, 1 to 7 or more small groups. That's what I was saying too, right? Back in the beginning. That was it. This was some validation. And people will begin talking about it more. Bashar said that too. So these are non-connected people. I hadn't heard about this. Bashar's not connected with, I don't think, maybe he's read the books. I don't know. Well, not Bashar, but Daryl. So you got some validation and you got people kind of saying the same thing. That's cool. And so this brings us back to the practicality aspect of it, which leads to an acclimatization process. And this is quite profound too, that when it actually happens or is beginning to unfold, there is simply a recognition of what has been there all along. I'm going to kind of whiz through the safety stuff because I think it's important and totally relevant to ask, because we've come from 3D, we're shifted, but safety was a big deal in 3D. So talking about safety, human and star family integration, or ET, human open contact, what kind of things are relevant to, let's say, the old paradigm? Protection and take care. And what's relevant to a shifted paradigm? I have an in-depth article on this on the Project Starseed blog. Our frequencies are our force field. So protection is an inherent aspect of a frequency shift. Remembering sovereignty, I am, is in itself protection. But you wouldn't call it protection because you have no need for that word anymore. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't protect themselves when they're doing psychic work. This is like, that's fine, and people do what they need to do their work. But what I'm saying is, entering into a shifted paradigm, we may begin to recognize remembering I am is the protection, but we can scrap that word. And I had some validation on that. Sasha, once again, has said, this isn't because we keep them out, the enemies out. It's because we've created a specific energy field. I don't know about this, but could this frequency shift lead to some invisibility from shadow governments and the negatives that want to control the world's agenda being in this frequency? It's possible. Ultimately, we need to remember that when you co-create in the frequency of unconditional love, you have no attachment to the outcomes. Unconditional love, or love as coherent, frictionless waveform data, has no attachments. So it expresses and it gives. It is not saying, but I've got to have that and I've got to have that. It doesn't judge the outcomes. So if we allow for universal freedom of expression without judgment, do we have anything to be afraid of? All our perceptions here are limited. We've chosen that. This is the whole point of being here. And all can be learnt from. All is a valid soul experience. So if all is a valid soul experience, all of it, even the bits that don't look good from here, do we have anything really to fear? We cannot wait passively for disclosure by groups that won't disclose the full truth. We cannot wait for ETs to land at a football field. It is our responsibility to plant the seeds for the future of intergalactic and interspecies relationships from a place of mutual respect, and I would add, love. Remember the heart connection. Reconnect. Imagine and dream freely. Group, find a tribe. Project Starseed is a good one. Co-create together. And then just let go. See what happens. That's me.